We're in the Lab 10 Skeletal System 1, Skeletal Lab 1. So in this lab, you need to be able to identify the bone structure. So first one is we have the long bone, so you need to be familiar with all this terminology. You can use your textbook, you can use your atlas. The atlas is the recommended the book I suggest you to purchase, but it's not required. So if you don't have the atlas and you found sometime you tell you the atlas page, the page that's actually the atlas page. If you don't have the atlas, it's totally fine. You can use the textbook. So this is a long bone structure we talk about in the class, and you need to be familiar with proximal epiphysis, distal epiphysis, diaphysis, and the inside structure. And the bone histology, in the lab we have the histology model. So they look exactly like this. So I will point at what's this structure, what's that structure. So the model looks like this, and you have the ostium. So each one is the functional unit called the ostium. And this is called the central canal. So in the central canal, you have the blood vessel and nerve goes through. And this is the perforating canal for the blood vessel and nerve to communicate with each other. And the layer is called, like a tree ring, is called the lamellae. And in the bone, actually have two kinds of lamellae. This one is called the circumferential lamellae, and they are on the outside. That's around the whole ostium. And the connective tissue outside is called the periosteum, and inside is called the endosteum. In the histology, you need to be able to identify the two different kinds of bones. So you have the compact bone and the spongy bone. And compact bone, you have the ostium. This is one ostium. And this is central canal. So all these are the osteocyte stay in the lacunae. So if I ask you the whole, the small leg, that's the lacunae. And this cell, that's the osteocyte. And these are the spongy bone, and these are the trabeculi. And these are the red bone marrow. And also you need to know the axial skeleton. A lot of memorization. Yeah, I know that the bone is a very typical anatomy. Nothing difficult to understand, no difficult concept, but a lot of memorization, and that's anatomy. So all these bones and the suture. So in the class we talk about the different suture. And in the temporal bone, in the class, we also talk about one meatus and three processes: zygomatic, styloid. Where styloid is here? Yeah, styloid process and mastoid process. Connect with the muscle sternocleidomastoid. So three processes and one meatus. And let's look at the occipital bone. So that's the occipital bone. And that's mainly your visual function. So when we talk about the brain occipital lobe, that's for the visual. And it also go to the bottom part, connect with your vertebra. And this hole, every hole in the anatomy called the foramen. And this is the biggest hole, so it's called the foramen magnum. It's called the foramen magnum, the biggest hole. And what's the occipital condyle? Occipital condyle, that's these two. It starts to connect with the vertebra. That's the occipital condyle. Sphenoid bone, we talk about the structure, and that's the wing. And one area you definitely need to know is called the sella tussica. That's this one. And because that's where your pituitary gland sit. Your ethmoid bone, a bone creates your upper part of your nasal cavity. They have a complex structure, labyrinth to labyrinth. And we talk about this one called the perpendicular plate. It creates your nasal septum. So upper part of nasal septum is created by the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid bone. And we also talk about the nasal concave. Superior, middle nasal concave, they are part of the ethmoid bone. Inferior nasal concave is actually a bone. And you need to know those. If I did not talk about the detail, you need to know the name of the bone. And if I talk about the detail, you need to know the detail. The vertebra, okay, you need to know those structure, like those the transverse foramen you find in the cervical vertebra, and that's where the blood vessel goes through. And this is called the spinous process. So every vertebra, you find it, you can feel it. And you also need to be able to identify the difference. So I'll give you one SQ is from the cervical, thoracic, or the lumbar. And in the class, we talk about the difference. And if I give you this one, it will be very easy because there's a sacrum. So sacrums, 5 bones fused together, and this is the coccyx. And the last one is the sternum. So sternum used to be counted as 3 bones. So old textbook called them 3 bones. It's the manubrium, the body, the xiphoid process. But the new textbook called 1, so just 3 different parts of the sternum. And that's where the ribs, those true ribs, connect with the sternum. And you also need to know, okay, in those 12 pairs of ribs, totally 7 pairs. True ribs because they connect to the sternum, and the last 5 are false ribs, and in the false ribs the last 2 are floating ribs because they don't connect with any that does not connect with the sternum at all. Okay, that's it.